Live, and we're live. All right, guys. So, welcome to episode 9 of the Marketing Hour. It's titled "I Fucked Up." It's just going to be me this time. Bill is out doing family stuff. We were obviously supposed to have it at 1 Eastern, but I missed my alarm, slept through it. I really needed to start setting multiple alarms. But I asked Bill if he wouldn't mind if I did a solo podcast today to talk about something that happened because I like kind of have a confession time about that, and also let you guys know that we're having our typical podcast episode tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern. Now it's been brought to my attention recently by a couple of friends of mine that there were on another show a group of marketers making fun of me and my brand. And my brand is, obviously soulweb.org, where internet marketing meets integrity. And of course, when you have a tagline like that and you put yourself under that microscope, when you mess up, um, you get called out on it pretty hard. And I did mess up. I made a mistake. And so these people, they rightfully so had every right to call me out on what had happened. So I guess my goal for this episode is to kind of talk to you guys about what I did, what happened, the thought processes behind it, what processes I've implemented so that it doesn't happen again, and hopefully give you some processes so that it never happens to you. So it all revolves around the Snap Reviews Pro launch, which was the plugin that we launched, I want to say around a month ago. And from the get-go, we had this great big plan. We had found this plugin on what's the name of that site that has that has all of them. I can't even think of the name of it. You know what I mean. Well, we were under the impression that this plugin would go perfect with our training, and we'd have a software plus training course to offer that could really help people. And so we go through, we buy the extended license. Well, come to find out, you're not allowed to use products off Code Canyon by themselves. So we were like, okay, that's okay. We'll code our own. We have a coder. So we contact our coder, and we say, hey, check out this plugin. How hard do you think this would be to code? Because we've never launched a plugin before. We've mainly done softwares or software as a service, and even then, our experience is very, very limited. I mean, you're talking, I've got 3 software launches under my belt, so it's constantly a learning experience. And he said, oh, it'll take a week. And I'm thinking, all right, well, we're a month and a half out from launch. If it's only going to take a week, then that's great. So week later, he comes back. He's got this perfect build. Everything's ready. We're ready to announce it to the world. So we announce it to the world. Everything's great. And then my partner and I get the brilliant idea to start adding features, make the plugin better, make it easier to use, make it completely editable, all these things. So we created a kind of a shit storm on ourselves because we started adding features to the stable build that we had, right? Because not so long as we had the stable build, and pretty much from that point forward, anytime we added a feature, something else would break. And then when we fix what broke, something else would break. And then we fix what broke, and then something else would break. And we fix what broke, and something else would break. And this went on for a month and a half until it's 3 days before launch, and I'm trying to hand out review copies. And by this point, the plugin is 95% working, and we're faced with the decision of, do we push the launch back, or do we launch it anyway and fix the bugs, as the launch goes on? And we sit there and we think about it, and we're kind of worried because, again, by this point, people have started pre-selling, and it's a really tough spot. It was a tough decision. So I made the call to just go ahead and launch it, because I was under the impression that even though it was 95% working, it was still better than some of the other stuff that people have launched that had bugs. And so the bugs weren't really uh, nearly as bad as some of the other ones. So I made the call to push forward with the launch. Now, here's where things went wrong is while the plugin was 95% working, it was only working on our servers. We didn't have the time anymore to test it on a bunch of different themes and plugins and everything else. So what ended up being a and worked for most people, for some people they couldn't get it to work at all because it wasn't optimized to work with every uh, uh, every theme and everything out there, and it being our first plugin launch, that's something we didn't even think about. So like to this day, we are still fixing bugs, and it's been a huge nightmare. But there was a group of people who obviously called me out on this, that said I should have rescheduled the launch. The headline should have been a bit more honest, which are both things that I think are fair and I agree with. And when I heard about that, a lot of people had heard this and talked about this, I wanted to come out and apologize, because my ultimate goal as an internet marketer is simply just to help people, right? And when I did not push back the launch 3 days before launch because I was worried about upsetting affiliates, instead of helping people, I hurt people, which again goes against my mission and my brand statement and everything else. So these people that did call me out on this and did talk about this had every right to do so, because I made a call for affiliates rather than for the benefit of the customer. And I'm honestly glad that they called me out on this. I'm not sure what was said. I don't even know everything that was said. But it was a good reminder that, the whole purpose of Soul Web, the whole purpose of Marketing Hour is we're creating a movement to try and make the internet marketing space a better place, if that makes sense. I don't know about you, but I almost get nervous sometimes telling people that I'm an internet marketer. Have you guys ever felt like that? You're like, I'm an internet marketer. If anyone has ever heard of internet marketing and they're like, oh, you mean one of those scammy motherfucking assholes, So I don't tell people that. I tell people I'm in advertising, or I blog, or I have a radio show like the Marketing Hour. But the bottom line is, when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, it's my job to do what's best for the customers. And by not rescheduling the launch and by putting the affiliates first that had already started pre-selling, I let the customers down in that regard. Because the plugin should have obviously been 100% working, 100% finished, weeks before launch. But because we added in all those features and because things kept changing, it was a nightmare. It was seriously the worst launch I've ever been a part of. I mean, it was the most stressful 4 weeks of my life. I mean, after those first 2 weeks, and I realized things kept breaking. By the end of the 4th week, I literally threw up blood, guys. Like, the last week of launch, we were in full-blown emergency mode, because anytime we'd fix anything, something else would break, and it was a huge nightmare. And so the launch honestly needed to be rescheduled, but I put myself first and the affiliates first, because I was worried about pissing them off for the people who had already started to pre-sell, and instead I launched it anyway. So the people out there who did call me out and make fun of me, I think you had every right to. But I also want to defend myself and say that ultimately, at the end of the day, I am human and I made a mistake. And honestly, I think criticism is a good thing. When we criticize each other, it's a form of self-regulation, if that makes sense. So like last night, when I heard that there had been people calling me out on that launch and how bad it went and how it went against everything I stood for, and how, I was a fraud or whatever, it hurt my feelings. I was worried. But now that I've kind of spoken to these people and seen their point of view, well, I mean, they're kind of right. I didn't stick to my principles on this one, and instead launched a plugin that wasn't 100% ready. It was only 95% ready. And I'm sorry for that. And if you're a customer watching this, I'm sorry if I let you down on that. But at the end of the day, guys, I think what matters most is my intent, and my intent is to help people. I think I just made a very bad decision launching that product rather than pushing it back like I should have, because I was more concerned about the affiliates who started pre-selling and what they would think rather than providing a great experience for the customers. So that's kind of what happened. You know, to the people that criticized me, I think I absolutely deserved it. I think the launch should have been pushed back. I don't know what you guys said. I don't know what was said. But if anything, it was spot on. And when you have a brand name like soulweb.org, where internet marketing meets integrity, then, you know, you're obviously open to a lot more criticism, especially if you fuck up like that. So I kind of wanted to do this podcast, kind of give you guys the story on what happened, but then also talk about the processes that I've implemented in the future for my softwares, so that you guys can hopefully take the processes and implement them as well in case it happens to you. Hey, Garfield, buddy, welcome to the call. I'm watching chat if you guys want to chime in or say anything. Welcome, Karthik. Welcome, cked. I hope I pronounced that right. Welcome, guys. I'm glad y'all are here. But after that, you know, after that launch, and, you know, that probably being one of the most stressful periods of my life, we sat down and tried to figure out how to make sure this never happened again. And basically, here's what we came up with. You don't schedule a launch until the software is completely done, okay? And even then, you schedule it a month to 2 months out. Then you spend 4 to 8 weeks of beta testing, going through everything, making sure it works with every theme, making sure it works with every little thing, make sure every little thing works, because a customer doesn't want to get a product right out of the box that they can't use, right? Like that would be, you know, that would piss them off, and I don't want to piss people off. I just want to help them. So we implemented a process now to where we don't even announce a product launch until software is 100% done and we're already in beta. And even then, the product launch is 1 to 2 months away, so that by the time it comes to hand out review copies, by the time that it comes to launch, the software, the plugin isn't 95% working, it's 100% working, okay? So if you're out there and you're planning on launching a software of some sort or launching a plugin of some sort, you really need to sit down and think of the processes to make sure you don't end up in the same situation where I was, where it was like 2.5 days before launch and we couldn't get a fucking working build. Like, we had a working build, we added things to it, and now nothing fucking works anymore. I mean, it was awful. I mean, honestly, guys, it was awful. It was super stressful. I was sleeping 2 hours a night, working nonstop, trying to get this damn thing to come together and work. And honestly, if you're running a software business, it should have never gotten to that point. But since it was my first plugin, I wasn't expecting it. Our developer told us one thing. We had to stable build. We had him to add stuff. So it was a huge clusterfuck of mistakes. And instead of pushing the launch back like I should have, I launched it anyway. Now, the plugin works. We're still fixing bugs, but it should have fully worked. It shouldn't have been 95%. It should have been 100%, you know? So that's how I fucked up. And because of that, there were a group of people that decided to call me out on that and make fun of me, not in a public setting, but in a private setting. So I wanted to address that and say that, you know, they're right. I should have pushed the launch back. But instead of putting the customer first, like I always try to do, I put the affiliates first. And at the end of the day, I'm just human. And it was a tough decision. and I chose just to push forward with it and try to make the best out of it. When in reality, that was the wrong decision. So if you're ever planning on launching software or a plugin, give yourself and your developer plenty of time to make sure every single little thing works. And if it's a plugin, make sure it works on multiple versions of WordPress. Make sure that it works with all kinds of themes. Make sure that it doesn't have any conflicts with popular plugins. Hey Brian, welcome, Michael, Joel, Cade, welcome. But just make sure that you don't end up in the situation that I ended up in, of having to choose between the affiliates and the customers, because the whole purpose of the damn plugin in the first place was just to help people. And when it's only 95% working, even though that's pretty close and pretty good, it's not good enough. All right, everything needs to be 100% working. And I chose to launch Snap Reviews Pro because it was too tight, it was too close, which put the affiliates and myself before the customers, which goes against SoulWeb, which goes against my brand and everything that I stand for. So that's the mistake that I made, and I wanted to make this short podcast and apologize, and let you know that we have processes in place for the future to make sure that it doesn't happen again. Now, don't get me wrong, Snap Reviews Pros, it works fine. We're still fixing bugs as they pop up. Everything's going good with that launch. People are enjoying the plugin. It works great. It's just when it came down to crunch time and launch time, we weren't where we are now. You know, it wasn't 100% ready, and I should have put the customers first, because if we don't put the customers first as an industry, then we are eventually going to lose them. And if we lose the customers, we lose our lifestyle, we lose our business, and it's bad for everyone. Hey Daniel, thanks man. But that's all I wanted to say on that, guys. I wanted to apologize for what happened with Snap Reviews Pro, and just say out there to the people that criticized me, I probably deserved it. So if you guys have any questions or anything you'd like me to talk about when it comes to launching softwares or anything at all, feel free to put them in the chat box. But if I don't get many questions, I'll probably end up cutting this podcast off just after that. But I appreciate those of you that have come on here and listened to me talk so far. I know it's not the standard hour-long episode that we're used to, but tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern, Bill and I are going to have the live IM Talk Radio, and that'll be fun. So if you can make that tomorrow, then hopefully we'll see you there. Some other processes we've implemented is we've decided that instead of us being the beta testers and only us, we're going to start recruiting other customers to beta test, and try to get as many people beta testing as possible, at least 6 to 8 weeks before launch, to make sure that everything is finished. And if it ever gets down to the point where we're 2 weeks before launch and the plugin isn't at 99 or 100%, then we'll reschedule. You know, that way we're never in a position where we have to compromise our ethics, compromise what we believe in, compromise our mission statements, and compromise our goals. And when it came down to Snap Reviews Pro, that's exactly what I was forced to do. So I was right to be criticized, and I accept that criticism. I'm glad it was brought to my attention, because that way I can do better in the future. And I think that's part of being human, is making mistakes and learning from them. Now, Eric Conrad Arkina asks, can SEO still help my website rank on Google, or are there better ways? SEO is still a factor, but and I'm not an SEO expert, first of all, but from what I understand from people who are, it's that content is king. So you have to have good content. People have to want to read it, and your page has to be optimized to rank, just like you would optimize a YouTube video. I mean, maybe if someone on this call that's watching has advice on SEO, they can give it to you. I'm not an SEO guy myself, but from what I understand, content is king. So if you put out good content that is also optimized for certain keywords, then yes, SEO can still help your website rank in Google. That was a question from one of our viewers. And so unless we get any more questions, I want here and kind of address the criticism and the public. Well, it wasn't really public; it was private, but it was kind of public. But the bashing that took place of myself, and apologize and promise to do better in the future, because criticism is a good thing, and the more we keep each other in check, the better the industry will be. So I guess that's all I wanted to say, guys. I appreciate you jumping on and watching. As always, if you have any questions, you can keep commenting below, even after I stop the broadcast, and I'll be able to respond to them. Otherwise, be here tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern. Bill will be here. We'll be back to our normal format. I am live talk radio with the marketing hour. It's going to be a blast. You guys are going to love it. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We have some really fun things to talk about. So guys, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye.